Michael Infallible. Black leaned against a corroded pillar in Omega-9 spaceport, scanning the bustling crowd of aliens, smugglers, and drifters. His fingers idly caressed the worn grip of his blaster. "All right, folks. Who's brave enough to challenge the legendary Infallible?" A gruff voice boomed. "Double credits if you can outshoot him blindfolded." Michael smirked and sauntered over to the makeshift shooting range, a row of empty bottles on a rickety table. "I'll take that bet," he drawled, fishing out credits. "But triple if I hit all targets in under 10 seconds. Excited murmurs rippled through the crowd as a portly Xovian with 3 arms grinned. "You're on, hotshot." Blindfolded, Michael took a deep breath, centering himself. "Begin!" 6 rapid shots rang out, each bottle shattered. Michael removed the blindfold, grinning. 8.3 seconds, the Xovian announced, awestruck. "Pay the man." As credits filled Michael's hand, a commotion caught his attention. A stunning blue-skinned woman with silver eyes burst through the doors, pursued by rough-looking mercenaries. "Stop right there, you blue-skinned witch," one snarled. Without hesitation, Michael drew and fired, disarming the lead mercenary. "Now that's not very neighborly," he called out. "Let's talk this out like civilized beings." The woman edged closer, relief in her gaze. "This doesn't concern you, gunslinger," growled another mercenary. "Walk away now and you might live to see another day." Michael's eyes narrowed. "See, that sounded an awful lot like a threat. I'm not too fond of threats." 3 rapid shots later, the mercenaries' weapons exploded in their hands, leaving them cursing and nursing burns. "Anyone else feeling trigger-happy?" Michael's tone was light, but his eyes were hard as steel. The mercenaries exchanged glances and slowly backed away. The blue-skinned woman sagged against the wall, relief evident on her delicate features. "Thank you," she breathed, her voice musical and slightly accented. "I am Allura, and you must be the infallible one I've heard so much about." Michael holstered his blaster. "News travels fast. Care to tell me why those gentlemen were so eager to make your acquaintance?" Allura glanced around nervously. "Not here. It isn't safe. Is there somewhere we can talk privately?" Intrigued, Michael nodded towards a seedy-looking cantina across the terminal. "Come on. First round's on me." Michael and Allura slipped into the dimly lit cantina, taking a secluded booth at the back. The low hum of conversation and clinking glasses provided a comforting backdrop. "All right, Blue," Michael said, sliding an iridescent drink towards her. "Start talking." Allura took a deep breath. "I possess a gift, or a curse, depending on how you look at it. I can see glimpses of the future." Michael leaned back, skepticism etched on his face. "Right. And I'm the Emperor of the Andromeda Galaxy." "I'm serious," Allura insisted, leaning forward, her eyes wide with urgency. "Those men were after me because of what I've seen. A terrible war is coming, Michael. A conflict that will engulf entire star systems and cost millions of lives." "Let me guess," Michael drawled. "Only I can stop it?" "Yes," she replied, her silver eyes boring into his. "My visions have shown me that you are the key to preventing this catastrophe. I need your help. I need you to be my protector." Michael snorted, taking a long swig of his drink. "Look, I appreciate a good story as much as the next guy, but—" A deafening explosion rocked the cantina, cutting him off. Screams erupted as smoke filled the air. Allura grabbed Michael's arm. "It's happening just as I saw. We need to leave now." "What the hell are you talking about?" Michael demanded, already on his feet, blaster drawn. "I foresaw this attack," Allura explained hurriedly as they rushed out of the cantina. "It's only the beginning. Please, Michael, you have to believe me." They emerged into chaos. Aliens of all species stampeded towards the exits. The acrid smell of smoke and burning electronics filled the air. Michael's tactical mind kicked into overdrive. "If we're getting out of here, We're going to need a ship, he muttered, scanning the docking bays. Allura pointed to a battered freighter. There. That one's our best chance. Michael raised an eyebrow. You saw that in a vision, too? No, Allura replied with a hint of a smile. But I can read the departure schedules. It's the only one cleared for immediate takeoff. Fair enough, Michael grinned, impressed despite himself. They sprinted toward the ship, dodging debris and panicked travelers. As they reached the boarding ramp, a gruff voice called out, Hey, that's my ship! Michael spun around to see a four-armed Kuzian pilot. Without missing a beat, he flashed his most charming smile. My good sir, I'm commandeering this vessel in the name of galactic security. I'm sure you understand. The Kuzian blinked in confusion. What? You can't just... Michael's fist connected with the alien's leftmost jaw, sending him sprawling. Sorry about that. Send me the repair bill. They dashed into the ship, Michael sliding into the pilot's seat with practiced ease. His fingers flew over the controls, bringing the engines to life with a satisfying roar. You know how to fly this thing? Allura asked, strapping herself into the co-pilot's chair. Sweetheart, I can fly anything with wings or thrusters. Now, let's see what this bucket of bolts can do. The ship lurched forward, nearly clipping another vessel as they shot out of the docking bay. Michael expertly weaved through the chaos, dodging debris and fleeing ships as they climbed into the upper atmosphere. We've got company, Allura warned, pointing to the radar screen where several blips were in hot pursuit. Michael's eyes narrowed as he pushed the throttle to its limit. Hang on tight, Blue. Things are about to get interesting. The stars blurred into streaks of light as they punched through the atmosphere, the pursuing ships growing larger in the rear-view screen. So, Michael said conversationally as he executed a barrel roll to avoid a barrage of laser fire. You mentioned something about a mission? A key to stopping this war of yours? Allura gripped her seat tightly, her knuckles turning a pale lavender. Yes. We need to get to the planet Insectoida. There's an artifact there that's crucial to understanding the coming conflict. Insectoida, Michael groaned. You couldn't have picked a nice resort planet? Maybe somewhere with beaches and fancy drinks? A slight smile tugged at Allura's lips. I don't choose the visions, Michael. They choose me. Fair enough, he conceded, fingers dancing over the navigation console, setting course. But first, let's lose our new friends. Michael dove the ship toward a dense asteroid field, eliciting a gasp from Allura. Are you insane? We'll be torn apart. Probably, Michael agreed cheerfully, but they will be too. It's amazing how much you can accomplish when you stop worrying about dying. As they plunged into the swirling chaos of rock and ice, Michael's world narrowed to pure instinct and reflex. He weaved the ship through impossibly tight gaps, each near miss, sending Allura's heart racing. Behind them, explosions flared as their pursuers met less fortunate ends among the asteroids. Michael let out a whoop of triumph as they emerged on the other side, relatively unscathed. See? Nothing to it? He grinned, punching in the coordinates for Insectoida. Allura let out a shaky breath, her silver eyes wide with a mixture of terror and admiration. You truly are as skilled as the stories say. Sweetheart, I'm better, Michael winked. As the stars elongated into the familiar streaks of hyperspace, he leaned back in his chair, fixing Allura with an appraising look. Now then, he said, his tone growing serious, we've got some time before we reach Bug Central. Why don't you fill me in on exactly what we're up against? And no more of this vague, terrible war business. I want details. Allura nodded, her delicate features set in determination. It all started 3 cycles ago when I had my first vision of the Crimson Tide. As Allura's melodic voice filled the cockpit, Michael found himself drawn into a tale of cosmic intrigue and looming disaster. Despite his initial skepticism, he couldn't shake the feeling that he was on the cusp of something far bigger than himself. Whether Allura's visions were real or not, one thing was certain. Life was about to get a whole lot more interesting. The battered freighter groaned as it descended through Insectoida's dense, humid atmosphere. Michael's knuckles whitened on the controls, fighting to keep the ship steady against the buffeting air currents. "Remind me again why we're landing on this oversized ant hill," he grumbled, eyeing the vast jungle canopy below. Allura leaned forward, her silver eyes scanning the horizon. "The artifact we seek is hidden in the ancient hive temples. It contains crucial information about the Crimson Tide and how to stop it." Michael snorted. "Right. And I'm sure the locals will just hand it over with a smile and a wave." As if on cue, a massive shape burst through the canopy, wings buzzing furiously. Michael's eyes widened as he took in the monstrous insectoid creature heading straight for them. "Hang on!" he yelled, wrenching the ship into a steep dive. The giant hornet-like beast sailed over them, mandibles clicking in frustration. "I thought you said the insectoidans were peaceful," Michael shouted as he weaved through a thicket of enormous trees. "They are. That must be one of the wild predators. The civilization is underground," Allura explained. With a string of colorful curses, Michael managed to lose their pursuer and locate a clearing large enough to set down. As the engines powered down, he turned to Allura with a wry grin. "Well, that was fun. What's next on the agenda? Tea with a tarantula?" Allura ignored his sarcasm, already unstrapping herself. "We need to find the hive entrance. It should be marked with glowing fungal patterns." They exited the ship, the oppressive heat and humidity hitting them like a wall. Michael's hand instinctively went to his blaster as he scanned the surrounding jungle. Everything seemed unnaturally large. Ferns the size of buildings, flowers big enough to swallow a man whole. "This way," Allura said, pointing to a faint bioluminescent trail on the forest floor. They hiked for what felt like hours, swatting at insects the size of Michael's fist. Just as he was about to suggest turning back, they stumbled upon a massive stone structure half buried in the jungle growth. "The Hive Temple," Allura breathed in awe. As they approached, a group of insectoidans emerged from a hidden entrance. They were smaller than the wild hornet they'd encountered, but still towered over the humans. Their compound eyes gleamed with intelligence as they chittered amongst themselves. Allura stepped forward, making a series of complicated gestures. To Michael's surprise, the insectoidans responded in kind. "You speak bug?" he whispered incredulously. "It's a universal diplomatic language," she murmured back. "I'm explaining our presence and asking for access to the temple." The lead insectoidian, its carapace adorned with intricate markings, buzzed what sounded like a question. Allura's brow furrowed. "They say we must prove our worth before entering the sacred space. They want you to face their champion in combat." Michael's eyebrows shot up. "You've got to be kidding me! What kind of combat are we talking about here?" Before Allura could respond, the group parted to reveal an enormous praying mantis, its bladed forearms glinting in the dappled sunlight. "Oh, you have got to be kidding me," Michael groaned. The lead insectoidian buzzed again, and Allura translated with a grimace. "They say to make it fair, you can choose any item from the jungle as your weapon." Michael scanned their surroundings, his tactical mind racing. His eyes landed on a nearby tree, and a crazy idea formed. "Tell them I accept," he said, striding over to the tree. With his vibro blade, he carefully cut a long, sturdy twig. Allura's eyes widened in disbelief. "A toothpick? That's your weapon of choice against a giant mantis?" Michael twirled the makeshift weapon with a cocky grin. "Sometimes the best defense is a good offense, or in this case, dental hygiene." The insectoidans led them to a circular clearing. the mantis champion looming at one end, its bladed arms raised menacingly. Michael took his position, acutely aware of how ridiculous he must look with his tiny stick. A high-pitched buzz signaled the start of combat. The mantis lunged with lightning speed, its bladed arms slicing through the air where Michael's head had been a split second before. He rolled, coming up behind the creature and jabbing his toothpick into a gap in its carapace. The mantis screeched, whirling around with surprising agility for its size. Michael ducked and weaved, using his smaller size and quickness to his advantage. He darted in close, jabbing at sensitive spots and leaping away before the mantis could retaliate. Sweat poured down Michael's face as the dance of death continued. He could hear Allura's sharp intake of breath with each near miss. The mantis was tiring, its movements becoming more erratic. In a desperate lunge, the insectoid champion overextended itself. Michael saw his opening. He dove forward, sliding between the mantis's legs and thrusting his twig upward with all his might. The mantis froze, then toppled backward with an earth-shaking thud. Michael stood, panting heavily, his improvised weapon buried deep in the creature's thorax. A stunned silence fell over the clearing. Then, to Michael's amazement, the insectoidans began to buzz and click in what could only be described as applause. The lead insectoidean approached, bowing its head in respect. Allura rushed to Michael's side, her eyes shining with a mixture of relief and admiration. "They're impressed by your resourcefulness and skill. We've been granted access to the temple." Michael grinned, plucking his toothpick from the fallen mantis. "See? I told you dental hygiene was important." Inside the hive temple, they navigated winding corridors of polished chitin until they reached a vast chamber. At its center stood a pedestal holding what looked like a crystalline egg. "The artifact," Allura breathed, reaching out to touch it. As her fingers brushed the surface, the egg pulsed with an inner light. Allura's eyes went blank, her body rigid as if in a trance. "Allura!" Michael called, alarmed. He moved to shake her, but an insectoidean guard held him back, buzzing what sounded like a warning. For several tense minutes, Allura remained frozen. Then, with a gasp, she stumbled backward. Michael caught her, steadying her trembling form. "What happened? What did you see?" Allura's silver eyes were wide with fear. "The Crimson Tide. It's worse than I thought. We need to get to Aquilon quickly. The next piece of the puzzle is there." They bid farewell to the insectoidans, who provided them with a data crystal containing star charts and ancient lore. As they lifted off from Insectoida, Michael couldn't shake the feeling that they were racing against an invisible clock. The journey to Aquilon was tense, filled with Allura's cryptic warnings about the future and Michael's increasingly pointed questions about her past. By the time they entered the aquatic planet's atmosphere, a tentative trust had formed between them, tempered by the weight of their mission. Aquilon's vast ocean stretched as far as the eye could see, broken only by the occasional archipelago or floating city. They docked at one such metropolis, a shimmering construct of coral and advanced polymers. As they disembarked, Michael whistled low. "Now this is more like it. Think we'll have time for a quick dip?" Allura shot him a reproachful look. "We're here on a mission, Michael. The fate of the galaxy hangs in the balance." "All work and no play makes Jack a dull boy," Michael quipped, but his hand never strayed far from his blaster. Something about this place set his nerves on edge. They made their way to the central administrative complex, a towering spire that stretched both above and below the waterline. As they entered the grand atrium, Michael's eyes were drawn to an imposing figure seated on an ornate throne. The being was clearly aquatic in nature, with iridescent scales and elaborate fins that rippled with subtle hues. What caught Michael's attention, however, was the enormous frilly structure adorning the creature's head. Before he could stop himself, Michael let out a low whistle. "Now that's what I call a hat. Looks like someone raided the seafood special." Allura's elbow connected sharply with his ribs. But it was too late. The entire chamber had gone deathly silent, all eyes fixed on them. The enthroned figure's gills flared in what was unmistakably anger. "You dare mock the sacred crest of Aquilon's sovereign?" a nearby official hissed, fins bristling. Michael's mind raced, searching for a way out of this diplomatic disaster. "Mock? No, you misunderstand. Where I come from, comparing someone to delicious food is the highest form of compliment." The explanation fell flat. Within moments, they found themselves surrounded by guards wielding plasma tridents. The sovereign's voice boomed through the chamber, aided by some sort of aquatic amplification. "For this insult, you will face the trials of the deep. Should you survive, your transgression will be forgiven. Should you fail..." The unspoken threat hung in the air like a storm cloud. As they were led away, Allura glared daggers at Michael. "This is why I should do the talking," she muttered. Michael shrugged, a roguish grin playing at his lips despite the gravity of the situation. "Hey, at least we're getting a front-row seat to local customs. Isn't that what diplomacy is all about?" Allura's exasperated sigh was cut short as they were brought to a platform overlooking a vast underwater arena. Schools of bioluminescent fish swirled in intricate patterns, casting an ethereal glow over the proceedings. "The trials of the deep consist of 3 challenges," their guide explained, handing them each a breathing apparatus. "First, you must outswim the Carcharodon megalodon." Michael's eyes widened as a massive shadow passed beneath the platform. "You couldn't have just let me take a dip, could you?" Michael's heart raced as he plunged into the icy depths of the underwater arena, the Carcharodon megalodon's massive shadow looming closer. The creature's enormous jaws snapped shut, missing him by inches as he kicked frantically, using his breathing apparatus to stay submerged. He glanced back to see Allura deftly maneuvering through the water, her movements fluid and precise. She waved him towards a narrow crevice in the coral reef. Michael followed, squeezing through just as the megalodon surged past, too large to follow them. "First challenge complete," Allura panted, her eyes wide with adrenaline. "Now for the next." The second trial, a maze of bioluminescent tunnels, tested their navigation skills. Michael's sense of direction proved invaluable, guiding them through the disorienting labyrinth. They emerged into a cavern where a glowing orb rested on a pedestal. "The artifact!" Allura exclaimed, reaching for it. But before she could grab it, the ground shook. The final challenge was upon them, an enormous kraken, its tentacles flailing wildly. Michael drew his blaster, but underwater, its effectiveness was limited. "Distract it!" Allura shouted, clutching the orb. Michael swam towards the kraken, waving his arms to draw its attention. As the beast lunged, he dodged, buying Allura precious seconds. She held the orb high, and it emitted a blinding light that sent the kraken retreating. Breathing heavily, they surfaced and climbed onto the platform. The sovereign watched them with an unreadable expression. "You have passed the trials of the deep," he intoned. "Your transgression is forgiven, and you may take the artifact." As they returned to their ship, Michael couldn't help but feel a surge of pride. They had not only survived but emerged stronger, their bond solidified. "Where to next?" he asked, grinning at Allura. She smiled back, determination in her silver eyes. "The next piece of the puzzle lies on the desert planet of Zerath. We have no time to lose." As their ship ascended, leaving Aquilon behind, Michael and Allura steeled themselves for the challenges ahead. The fate of the galaxy depended on their success, and together, they would face whatever came next. Subscribe to watch more amazing sci-fi stories.